Good morning, everybody. Welcome in to the OHIO podcast live reaction to Ryan Day's press conference. It's an early one this morning, 11 a.m. That's why we're on the air at 10:58 a.m. right now, anticipating Ryan getting started early right at 11. They bumped it up an hour today. I'm not sure why. Maybe we'll find out. But we got the audio plugged in, ready to go, listening to Ryan Day as he talks about Purdue, talks about Nico and UCLA coming to the shoe. 3 games left this regular season. So we're 75% done with the regular season. 3 more games to go. UCLA and Rutgers at home, and then the trip to Ann Arbor. And then hopefully we all goes well in those 3 games and we get to play the following week for a Big Ten championship in Indianapolis. That's the hope, everybody. What would you love to hear asked today? That's the question. What would you like to hear asked to Ryan Day? I'm going to say I would love to get his impression of playing in cold weather, although we're not going to get that. We're not going to get that Saturday, but there's a very good possibility the next 2 weeks that could happen. Rutgers at home, of course, in Ann Arbor. What's his take on that, playing in the cold weather? I would love to get his take on the health of Carnell Tate, Padilla, Phillips on the offensive line. I would love to hear a positive affirmation for him that they're going to be practicing this week and all is well. My video feed for this looks like they are getting ready for him to walk in any minute. As soon as they do, we will just be transitioning right over. In fact, here we go, guys. Let's roll.
Ready? Welcome. Thank you for coming a little early today. We'll go all the way to the center, very back there, Dan.
Ryan, Nico, you played against him last year when he was at Tennessee. Are you able to take anything away from that, or is it a new evaluation when he's on a new team?
Well, we evaluate everything, but I can tell you that he's a tough player. He played tough in the playoff game here, and I'm watching him play the last few weeks, and man, he's physical. He runs hard. He takes some shots, and he keeps coming back. And he's a competitor, man. I got a lot of respect for him as a player. He throws, he's got a strong arm, and he's been doing a lot for his team. And you watch him on the field, he's a warrior. So we'll take all that into consideration, just and look at everything. But we know this is a great challenge for our team, and it starts with him.
Ryan, lots.
All right, let me jump in here real fast. Nailed it right off the bat. So, Nico, he's a competitor. He is a ferocious warrior. He is the leader of the team. Let me translate that for you. He's literally the only thing on their team that you have to worry about right now. You go back and you watch that UCLA versus Penn State game. Nico carried that team on his back that whole game. He was everything to them. Running the football, throwing the football. He was everything. Single-handedly almost beat Penn State by himself. He did get a little bit of help, but you see my point. So absolutely, there's going to be a huge emphasis this week in defensively and making sure they keep Nico one-dimensional and make him beat them with his arm. I expect to see a lot of one-on-one on the outsides with these wide receivers and a lot of containment from the defensive line, keeping them in the pocket and letting the linebackers do their thing and clean up. That's my anticipation this week defensively and keeping Nico wrapped up. Let's continue.
Some things happening on the recruiting side of things. It seems like maybe there's been a change of philosophy as far as the size of this 26 class in the last month or so. Can you just speak to what really is motivating that now, with 25 commits and a handful of guys still out there? Like, how high do you see this going, and what is the driving force behind that?
Well, we're trying to make sure that we're in a good place, obviously, with our roster as we head into December, and then you have the portal, and with that, there's a lot of challenges, as you know. You have retention, and then you have guys who are at other schools, and we want to make sure that we're continually recruiting high school players that we can develop. And there's a little bit based on how far we go this season and what happens, that will adjust sort of how we end up getting to our number at the end of the year. But we want to make sure that we're flush at all areas, and that's at the high end, in terms of like the starters and the older guys, and then certainly with the young guys as we're developing them. So we want to make sure that the way that we're building the roster is the right way, and a lot of it has to do with the high school guys coming in. So we're trying to project it the best we can, but obviously it's floating around and it's a moving target.
Related to the one portal window, maybe like kind of requiring you to add more in high school ranks?
Yeah, I think that's the case because you can't be short. And I've said it before. I mean, whoever plays past when the portal closes, late into the season is going to really be at a disadvantage because there's no way to replace those guys once the 5-day window opens after the final game. So, we all have to make sure that we're not short. That's our job. So we're going to make sure that we're in good shape here and we're flush.
Wow. Okay. Huge. That is massive. In case you guys didn't catch that, Ohio State's taking more freshmen, more recruits than they typically do. Usually their classes are anywhere from 21 to 22, 23, 24 on the high end. They're going to be adding a ton of freshmen. I've heard anywhere from 28 to 30. Why so many? The portal window is a concern for this team because they anticipate playing deep into the college football playoff. And because of that anticipation of going deep, there is a very good chance they lose people in the portal and they can't retain or go out and grab guys from the portal because their concentration is going to be on winning another national championship, which means they're going to have to make sure their numbers are good, which means they have to take more high schoolers. So yeah, 100% Mika. She says very interesting. That's the reason why we're seeing them put a huge emphasis here down the stretch in the 2026 class, adding as much depth as they possibly can. It's a numbers thing, guys, and they're concerned about the portal. Huge answer. Very interesting.
Right. First of all, any update on Josh, but then also a lot of different guys got a chance to play at that guard spot between Gabe and Ethan, maybe who we haven't seen. And I know when you guys first got him, there was an idea of what he was projected to be, and that hasn't necessarily worked out here. Just an update on where his development is, and maybe is he an option along with Josh to be a guy at that right guard spot?
Yeah, he's an option. He played in the game, and I thought he had some good movement in the run game and did some good things. So we'll see how this week goes, but we're going to keep pushing the envelope on it and keep grinding on it. But he did have some good snaps in that game, and hopefully we can get him to play at a certain level that we need him to play in order to finish the season the way we want to. Josh, we're expecting a full week from Josh. We'll see how today goes. But he and Phil both, we'll kind of see as the week goes on, but we're expecting a full week of work out of those guys.
Right. I think there was a notion that in June with recruiting, maybe things didn't pop quite the way people were hoping they would in terms of commitments. Now that is happening. Is there anything you feel like you guys have a better grasp on now than you did then that's allowing that to happen? Or is there anything strategic about not taking guys in the summer and kind of taking them now?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a philosophy. Not that we're not trying to get good players, but I think a couple things come into play. One, there's going to be changes in college football year in and year out. That's the first thing, based on how guys play, based on coaching staffs, based on a lot of things. The second part of it is the evaluation of their senior year. So when you take those two things into consideration, the projection was that last spring we were going to be in a lot different place in November and December than we were in June. And I think the biggest part is we had more information about the players, because with the amount of resources that we're investing in these young men nowadays, you better be right. That's the most important thing. In the past, you could bring in whoever you wanted. Maybe they were ranked high or whatever. If they didn't work out, they didn't play, or maybe it took 3 or 4 years for them to get on the field, or maybe they tried another school. You can't have bad investments anymore. I mean, it's really important. This is critical decisions. And so we want to make sure that we're, turning over every stone and making sure we're right in our decisions. Not that it's 100%, but we got to do our part and do our due diligence to make sure that when we evaluate these guys, we have all the information that we possibly can to do what's right. So by the university.
Ron, what do you think has allowed Arvell to be as impactful this year in his first year as a starter? I mean, just to go from being a backup to somebody they're talking about as an all-American candidate.
Right.
What's
Well, I think the first thing is that Arvell, you see this in guys when they get into the year 3, sometimes year 4, but where the program kind of kicks in. What I mean by that is like all the work that they've done up to that point, it all starts to come together. And I think you see that with a lot of our guys, but in particular with Arvell, he was a very productive player in high school. Coach Ginn did a great job of bringing him along and providing a mindset of what it means to be a Buckeye, and that's critical. What it means to play at Ohio State, and Arvell has that mindset. He had the minute he walked in the door, and I think Arvell never gets distracted with like noise. He just focuses on what matters, and that's a unique trait. We were talking about this the other day. Maybe there's talk about him with awards, or maybe there's talk about him in the draft. That doesn't affect Arvell. Arvell just focuses on what matters, and again, it starts with a mindset. But I think early in his career, he could have very easily, been discouraged because maybe he didn't play as much early on. We moved to D-line for a couple months, and all those things helped him. And then he sat and watched Cody, he watched Sonny, and now his athletic ability, his mindset, and now the understanding of what goes on in that room and what James has done in terms of, just the football IQ in that room is allowing him to play at a high level. And I think all that combines to what you're seeing on the field.
his skill set to be on the end as a rusher, to be as an off-ball linebacker? Have you had players like that much before? Here, just how does his skill set, the variety of it come
Right.
there?
I mean, I'm trying to think if there's been somebody I've been around that has that type of a skill set, as talented as Arvell. Probably not. I mean, and Sonny's right there too. Both of those guys have that ability and that versatility, and I'd have to go back and think, but they're right there at the top.
Coach, you often talk about the outside noise and dealing with it. Obviously, the kids see the posts, they see the stuff. I mean, you've got numerous players being mentioned for huge honors. What do you say to them? Because it is exciting to have their names mentioned, and do you feel like the university should promote the guys at all for those awards?
Well, I think the number one goal is to win, and for team goals of winning championships. And if the guys understand that, then I think it's great to promote that. I think if we started to feel like we have a bunch of guys that are self-promoters or that are playing the game to try to get statistics and get awards, then I don't think that we should focus on that, and we're not focused on that. But I think our guys understand that if you win as a team, then everybody's going to do well, and I think that's the case. I think you can see that with Jeremiah. You can see that with Julian. They both are pulling for each other. I think the way that our guys, lift up their teammates, that all matters. So if I started to feel like it was becoming an individual thing, then yeah, we'd probably put a stop to it. But I think this is a team who understands, how important it is to win as a team and not individually. And that's a message that we've been talking about for a long time, about being unselfish. And the best team in the country is going to win, and once selfishness starts to kick in, that's players and coaches included, that's when we get distracted. And, obviously it's my job to keep a close eye on that.
Day refuses to hype any player for the Heisman. I mean, he just refuses to do it. His philosophy, his mindset, his vision is team first, and he does not want anything distracting the ultimate goal, which is winning a back-to-back national championship. So the fact that Julian and JJ is getting this Heisman hype, you can tell he's uncomfortable with it. Number one goal is to win. Then promote the individual awards, and it depends on the guys. If they're self-promoting, that was his words, not mine, self-promoting, then we're not going to promote them because our number one goal is to win. Interesting. Follow-up question should be, no one will ask it, but the follow-up question should be, in the past, the university didn't promote anybody. Was that because the players didn't have a team first mindset, in your opinion, coach? I think the answer to that is yes. Unfortunately, yes. So he's hammering this home multiple times down the stretch here as the Heisman becomes a thing for Julian and for JJ. He's hammering it home. The number one goal is to win. Everything else is second place. Credible answer there and very insightful. And maybe another Illuminati topic there, Mika, on the past and why they haven't promoted from the university standpoint until now. Something interesting. Let's continue.
Big hits by the secondary. Caleb had another one earlier on Saturday. How important is that physical brand of football from those guys?
Yeah, setting the tone, especially early in the game. I mean, it's the one difference about football than any other sport. And you got to set the tone early in the game and let them know you're there. And that's a part of our brand. That's a part of our identity is playing physical. And whether it's guys running and hitting, winning at the line of scrimmage, finishing guys downfield, that's what we want. We come in here on Sundays and watch the clips. I mean, those are the first ones that we show. Those are our culture clips. Starts in preseason, and it's got to go all the way throughout the season. Because if that's our identity, it's got to be that way every week. And so that's it. And this time of year, we got to be seeking contact. We got to be hunting it up.
Ryan, when we talk about pace of play and the pace you guys go at, you're still extremely efficient on offense. Sometimes when you have a young quarterback or young backs, maybe that efficiency doesn't line up. What's been the key for those guys to still be able to play as efficient at that slow pace?
Yeah, it's. I think we had over 70 plays this past week, so that was great to get. And the defense, I think, had 37 going into the last drive. So there's a lot of good there. But I think it's kind of the way we operate. We operate out of the huddle. And I think when you look at it from the beginning of the season, you look at it from a 20,000-foot view, and you say, well, we can cut down on the number of plays to keep our team healthy and fresh towards the end of the season. That's important. But once you kind of get in their rhythm of huddling, you get used to that, and the guys get comfortable with that as opposed to the other part of it. But we also need to be able to do that when we need to do it. And when I say need to, it's based on what's going on with the game. We're not all of a sudden just going to go tempo because we just want to go tempo. It has to give us an advantage. And when we're all on the same page and we're being efficient in what we're doing and we're executing at a high level, that's what's most important, period. And so, we're still chasing that. We're not there. But changing the tempo does help. Or if you find yourself in a situation like we did in a 2-minute drill, we have to play on the ball. That's good. It keeps defenses, on their heels a little bit as a change-up. So, we'll keep looking at it, but we're not just going to do it to do it. I think, quite honestly, for the most part, the defenses and defensive coordinators really have caught up to just playing tempo all the time. They can see your formation and call your defense based on how you line up. And so that's where the coach and player communication sort of changed things. And all those things have combined to where we're at right now, and that's why we focus so much on efficiency. But we also want to be really explosive as well. So get back to work today and get after it.
I don't pretend to be a coach. I don't know what the scheme is on certain plays, but when I watched the game again, it looked like there were times that the offensive line just didn't block somebody. Somebody came off the edge. I don't know. Again, I don't know the scheme.
Sure.
And there were times that they just didn't get pushed. What's your kind of analysis or evaluation of the offensive line at this point?
Yeah, good question. I think there's 2 plays in particular where we had a free runner, and Bo, man, what 2 great runs he had on third down, man. The first one was what we call free safety mix, so the will blitz and the free safety came into the B gap. We had David in there tight. He usually handles any fourth defender over here. They did a nice job. They hit it inside, so David couldn't quite get to him. So that's a scheme issue. We actually blocked it pretty well because once Bo kind of broke the tackle. He ended up making some yards there. And there was a couple others like that, and give them credit. They did a nice job with a couple of those things. I thought, we did overall handle some of that. Was a lot of movement up there. We early on, we ran a stretch play that Austin didn't quite get to the second level. The next time we ran the same one, he got to the second level on the same blitz, got to the backer, and it turned into an explosive run. So one of the things about the run game is, it does take time to take effect. We certainly wish that the first play, would have been, part of our day, but it wasn't. So we had to regroup and come back after it. But we're just going to keep swinging on it, and it comes down to fundamentals. That's it. So, we'll keep trying to figure out ways to be creative and create space and create explosion. But when it all comes down to the end, it's going to come down to fundamentals. And so, but yeah, I think there's positives, but there's also things we got to get better at.
All the changes on you've been pretty stable, obviously. Philip missed last week. Had you hoped that the line would be more consistent than it's been to this point?
No, I wouldn't say that. I always want to be more consistent, yeah. But I can't sit here and say I'm disappointed right now. I'm encouraged with a lot of things that are going on up there. And if I thought it was, a real problem or a mess, I would address it. I know that we're going to get a lot more challenges here, and we're challenging these guys every day. And the backs need to continue to run better, and we need to continue to figure out ways to put them in a situation to be successful. And the angles of the blocks, we've got to keep working on that. But no, I think they're grinding on it. They're working hard. Two of the guys graded out a champion. The other guys didn't. We upped our ante on being a champion. It used to be over 80. this past week. Now we're at 83% because we feel like we need to increase our efficiency and execution. But yeah, I think there's a lot of good there, but certainly we know what we need to get in terms of winning a championship. So we want all those guys to grade out over 83%.
All right. Let me speak on that. So Ryan Day's standard for the offensive line has just gone up. From grading out a champion was 80%, and he raised it to 83%. Only two of the linemen hit that mark. So I like it. They're resetting the standard and the goal in which that they need to reach in order to get there. And it's recalibrating for the playoffs. It's getting yourself in the mindset of the competition levels better. It's going to be better, and you have to be more consistent and better all the time in order to go back to back. So I like it. I thought that was interesting. Also, there was a quote right before that he had. It was a question about the defense and the hard hits recently. Listen to this quote. This is great. This time of year, we have to be seeking contact. That's a great quote. I like that. This time of year, we have to be seeking contact. Love it. Let's continue.
Right, you guys at times tried some different things. It looked like, I know you got asked about that a little bit after the game, but defensively, I think the first third downs, you didn't have defensive tackles on there. You bring Justin in, you hand off to Nate. Is that something where at this point of the season, you have it, you might as well use it, put it on film? What's the thinking on just adding some new things here in November?
Well, I think part of it is you try to put guys in a situation to be successful. I think when you looked at the group we had on the field, that was a pretty twitchy group we had. And you figure out where it goes. Sometimes it's a little bit of a laboratory to figure out, once they're in that moment, what does it look like? You try to project. Some things are great. I thought our package with Lincoln was well thought out, and what went on with that. Sometimes you do it and it doesn't work out the way you thought it would work out. But I think at this time of year, it's more about putting the people in the right positions to be successful. And then, like you said, having curveballs and changeups are good. And then sometimes, they're good for one or two shots. Sometimes, you come back and you build off of that package, and then it kind of goes from there. So I think you can tell on both sides of the ball, we just look a little different than maybe we did last year. From formations to alignments to fronts to coverages.
Right, the running game takes a while over the course of a game, also over the course of a season. Looks like you've got 4 running backs right now that are running with energy and will. Are you seeing that same thing? And if that continues, do you need to pare it down?
Well, I think they all. CJ's the most veteran there. The other guys like Bo didn't actually didn't play a whole bunch of running back actually in high school, and then he got hurt late in the season. So like he hasn't played a ton of football. Isaiah West, was injured, his senior year. James didn't really get a lot of carries last year, so the same thing with him his senior year. And so these guys haven't played a lot of football. So the more carries we can get them, the more we can get them into the game, the better. The good news is, to your point, that we have 4 of them, where there's been seasons where we've had 2 and then one of them gets hurt. Like it's a scramble. So I think we've done a good job of that. And the more they play, the more they're getting comfortable. And I thought that group took a step, even though maybe it only looked like a little step to everybody. There was a lot of things that I saw they took a step on. I thought the 2 runs by Bo and the short yardage situations were excellent. I mean, that was a free guy in the hole. But that's how Quinshon looked last year. Some of the explosive runs that we got with Trey last year, it was good to see Bo hit one. We got called back, but that's what we're looking for. And then obviously in pass protection, I thought CJ did a nice job picking up a couple blitzes. So, but that's it, man. When you have a young room like that, you got to keep getting them out there, getting experience, and then got to keep growing and not make the same mistake over and over again. So, and then trying to identify are there schemes that they do better in than others, and that's the day-to-day grind we're on.
So he likes the improvement of that room, which means he was disappointed in that running back room, which we all have been. Let's be honest. I think we were, as Ohio State fans, we were spoiled last year with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. They were really, really good. They were dynamic, and they were healthy all year. And this is just a young, inexperienced room, and maybe they haven't done everything that they need to do or should do within the scheme, within the play calls. And Ryan Day kind of just acknowledged that a little bit. But he did call out Bo by name again. So, yeah, I think that the running back room, Ryan knows we're going to need to be able to run the football. We can't just win this thing by throwing the football. Just can't. We can't do it. We have to be able to keep defenses honest, and so we're going to need to run the football. I think that answer was incredibly interesting. Tyler says, and the thing about running back is it's one of those positions. If you're a freshman, it's easy to learn. Just find the hole and go north and south. And our running backs are getting better. It's definitely easier to learn than say wide receiver, right, or tight end. So I agree with you on that aspect. Our freshmen are our 2 best backs, says Bugsy's daddy. He's talking about Isaiah West and Bo Jackson. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I think the proof is in the pudding there. All right, let's turn it back on.
Ryan, I know you don't like to single guys out and leave somebody out of the conversation, but with all the rotation and different reps that young guys got last week, is there anyone that comes to mind immediately for you that exceeded what you thought they might provide on Saturday, and how that might be different down the stretch for them now?
Yeah, not so much. I think some of the guys maybe that hadn't played as much, maybe like some of the non-starters. Like I thought Peyton Pierce was excellent in the game. He's playing well in special teams. This is a guy who was a high school wrestler and just really has taken the next step, I think, and is a productive player for us. As you guys can see, diagnosis plays well. Really serious about his business. Tough guy, really smart. I thought Bryson Rodgers played well, and we need some guys to step up at receiver, and so really good to see him. He made some nice blocks. He made a couple nice catches. So hopefully that can build him some momentum and him some confidence moving forward. In terms of other young guys, it was good to see Ian Moore in his first start play well. I mean, when you don't notice somebody, that's a good sign of tackle. And we didn't really notice Ian too much. And a lot of good. I think, full disclosure, he's so used to practicing. I think that there were times where at the last 10 to 20% of the play, he's kind of programmed to sort of shut it down, where you got to play the whole play. But like overall, it's a heck of a start. And so hopefully, again, that's another guy that now can build some confidence. I guess probably those are the guys that stuck out. Yeah, that's probably it.
Ryan Day's standard has gone up, folks. He used to mention everybody on that question. Which some of the young guys have stand out? And he's just like, where's the roster? Here's all the freshmen. Peyton Pierce, he's in love with Peyton Pierce, dude. That is evident. There's your next starting linebacker. If we lose both linebackers next year, Peyton Pierce, possible team captain in 2026. Definitely, if Arvell comes back next year, which I listen, I don't anticipate Arvell coming back next year. He's going to be a first-round draft pick. I think they're going to throw some NIL at Arvell to keep him back, keep him here. But I mean, are they going to throw him a first-round draft pick in NIL money? Probably not. So Arvell's probably going to go to the NFL. Sonny has to. He's a senior. He's graduating. So you're gonna lose both those linebackers. We need Peyton Pierce to be huge next year. Ryan Day loves the guy. Calls out Bryson Rogers by name there, says had a good game. He had that drop early, but then came back and played really well. And then he forgot about Ian Moore, but then he chuckled and said it's because, Ian didn't have any glaring mistakes at right tackle. Watch out, Philip Daniels. If you screw up anymore or you can't come back, Ian Moore might take that spot. Those are three potential starters next year. Peyton Pierce at linebacker, Ian Moore at right tackle, possibly left tackle, and Bryson Rogers taking Carnell Tate's spot maybe. I think there's going to be a huge competition in the wide receiver room next year. I really do. There's going to be a fierce competition. Any comments? Let me grab real fast. Mylan had the drop. Thank you, Mika. You're correct. Mylan Graham had the drop, not Bryson Rogers. You are correct about that. Thank you for correcting me. Bryson Rogers didn't. That was Mylan Graham. Yep. Thank you, Tyler. You guys are the best, man. Appreciate you guys. All right, let's get back to it.
Ryan, at defensive tackle, first of all, is Taiwan on track to get back into action after this week? And then Edric got the start. What did you think of Edric, his first start in a while? And also, it looked like Jason Moore at the end of the game had some good reps. Yeah. Do you see that as like an option to start to maybe get some reps here?
I would love to, yeah. And it was good to see him flash. Now he needs to be more consistent. You're talking about Jason Moore, somebody who, again, it's another guy that we'd love to see take the next step. He can do it. You've seen him do it physically. Now can he consistently do it, which is what I think Edric has now, kind of learned to do. Maybe not as much drama, just going out there and playing and playing the next snap. And that's the sign of his maturity, This is a guy who just lights up a room when he walks in a room. Edric is a great young man. He's got a lot of talent, and he's learning how this all works. And, once he made the transition inside, what that comes with. And, he's had ups and downs a little bit this year, but you're starting to see him play his best football. And I think the maturity and the preparation and what he's doing is paying off. And I think, he's going to be a big player for us. And then in Taiwan, we felt like it was just, could he have played? Yes, but we decided to hold him. So expecting a full week of work out of him too.
You talk about how you and Julian, when he comes off the field, you have good conversations about what he sees. I'm curious how you've seen that grow over, what's now been 9 games of his career, and then off the field. Once you get back and watch the film, how has he been able to diagnose areas that he could step up?
I think once you start playing games with somebody and you spend more time with them and you see him on the field, you give him the benefit of the doubt in terms of what he's thinking, and he's not quite there yet, but I understand now that he is putting the preparation in. I kind of understand how his mind works, and there's certain times where you gotta bark at him to make sure that he's locked in. You know what I mean, as a young player, but I see a guy who is locked in a lot. So I'm kind of over that stage, and now it's more about the football and what he's seeing, the decisions he's making, and the preparation, and making sure that he's focused and locked in and concentrating on each situation and what comes with it, and as the scheme continues to increase week in and week out, how important every single play is. So and that's and then just what it takes to execute each play and making great decisions, and then having the toughness to lead the team as we get into these bigger games as the season comes to an end. So that's kind of where we are, and he's doing great in terms of his preparation, his mindset.
It might seem a little silly, but do you want him to have the confidence to sometimes make the throws? I know it was an interception against Purdue, but where he feels he can fit things into tight windows, or do you want him to take a step back at times as a young quarterback?
I think that's the art of playing quarterback, and if you could tell somebody that, it'd be a lot easier. It's just there's so many moving parts, and after playing the position, like I understand, like, and just that, like, if you're talking about that one play in particular, like, in that situation, we had a 17-play drive, and like they're dropping 8. There's really no room in there. Like, you probably got to check the ball down or run, and maybe we play 4th down, or maybe we kick the field goal. But there's just so many bodies in the end zone when it's a 3-man rush that gets really hard. And if you're going to make that throw, it's got to be like really tall, top shelf, where only he can catch it. But like those are the things that it's so hard to replicate, and you got to learn. Like, and but he knew it. The minute he knew it. He came right over, and that wasn't a situation where you start barking at somebody. You just because he knows nobody want to take care of the ball better than him in that moment. So, but then if you overdo it, then all of a sudden guys get paralyzed. They don't let it rip. So you got to let it rip, man. And every once in a while, bad things are going to happen. You got to come back from it. And I think, to his credit, he's kind of always stayed even keeled in that area. So again, bigger challenges ahead, but that's kind of where he's at.
Ryan, going back to the right guard spots, as you're looking for consistency there, how close is Josh, I guess, assuming his health, how close is he to earning a start in that spot or getting consecutive drives to see what that looks like for him?
Yeah, I think right now, where we stand right now, it's we're going to kind of like split the duty up there. But who knows? That might change later today. Josh is going to get healthy. We'll see how Ethan does today. But that's kind of where we kind of feel like we are right now. And we feel like splitting the reps can help them, all those guys, become more efficient. But we're going to keep evaluating, keep pushing on it, and see where we go. And a big part of it is how healthy Josh is.
You were talking about the offensive line player earlier. You mentioned David. Who are you talking about there?
David? No, David Adolph. He was at the receiver position for that play. Yeah.
Brian, when it comes to recruiting, what kind of value do you find in terms of positionless players, maybe guys that can do a bunch of different things on a field and on an offense or defense?
That's another thing. I think that is, like, not to give away trade secrets, but I think nowadays, if you're just a one position only guy, you better be elite. And so if you're an offensive lineman that can play, guard and tackle, or you're a receiver, that can block and run, or if you're a linebacker that can play on the edge, or you're a nickel that can play corner, or safety that can play down, like all those things come into play, because the versatility is important, because we know this roster's every year is getting shorter and shorter. We're going to get to just over 100 people on the team, and so that means everybody has to have versatility. That means guys who are on the field and also scout team guys. So anybody that we're bringing into the program, we want to have some versatility. I think you can see by maybe some of the guys that we're adding to the roster here, even over the last month, they can do multiple things, and I think that's important. Guys like Xavier Johnson, like, think about how many roles he played. A guy like Mitch Rossi, these guys, they became very important in those seasons because they could do multiple things. And so the more guys like that we can have in the program, I think the better off we're going to be.
Woo! Legend Bay, anybody? That's what that question was alluding to. Taking guys who can play multiple positions. Legend Bay plays quarterback for his team. He can play running back. He can play wide receiver. He's a special teams guru. He can field punts. He can field kicks. He can play defense. Yeah, that was an incredibly interesting answer there by Ryan Day. And he basically just told you a little recruiting secret there, guys. And he even said, I probably even shouldn't say this, but We look for guys with great versatility, guys who can play multiple positions, people who can do more than just one thing on the field. So, and he basically just said, if you can't do more than one thing, you better be elite. So if you're only a wide receiver, you better be an elite wide receiver. If you can only be a running back, you better be an elite running back. If you're only a quarterback, you better be an elite quarterback. Otherwise, you need to be able to play multiple positions. Now, offensive lineman, he said guard tackle, guard center. On the line, play different. On the defensive line, you can play outside or inside. Linebacker, can you play nickel, corner, safety? Like he loves the versatility, and he told you why. It's because the roster's shrinking there, so you have to be able to have guys who can do multiple things. But that question was 100% alluding to Legend Bay, who just committed to Ohio State because he is fast. He's Ted Ginn and Braxton Miller if they were the same person. Now there is a comparison. Let's finish up the press conference.
Ryan, when you're talking about maybe working in more guys on defense, different guys on defense, if you look last year behind your 11 starters on defense, the next 6 guys in number of snaps were Jermaine Matthews, Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry, Arvell Reese, Caden McDonald, and Lorenzo Styles, who are all starting this year. If you're playing other guys, is it mostly about keeping guys fresh for this year, or are you thinking ahead to next year for development, retention, that we also want to build the next group of starters?
I think a couple of things. I think the first thing you're thinking about is development for this year, developing depth. What is it going to look like when you're putting you in a game, in a Big Ten game? You know, what does it look like in those moments? It's one thing what we see in practice, but it's another thing to actually do it in the game. So that's the first thing we're trying to evaluate. And the second thing is, like, to your point, like, where are we going? You know, what's this looking like in the next 2 to 3 years? In each game, we'll go through and we'll take a look at the guys and see how they do and try to figure in all these decisions on, you know, guys coming into the program, retention, all of that, and then try to project out the best we can based on what we see. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of conversation. He just needs more reps. His awareness is excellent. You know, we can see a projection over here. Look at this. Maybe, in a different type of scheme or a different type of, play, he could do these types of, like, we're all trying to figure those things out. Where we feel like with the older guys, we have a pretty good feel for that, which is why we've adapted on both sides of the ball.
All right, Coach, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, there we go. That was the Ryan Day press conference. Awesome. So, what's your guys' thoughts on? I've got 2 things that I didn't mention. I didn't pause the video and do an initial reaction to that I would like to talk about now. One was the update on Padilla and Philip Daniels and Ethan O. We'll just say that. They're going to see how they are in practice this week and reevaluate for the game this weekend. Padilla's name came up multiple times when talking about that right guard position. It is up for grabs. It is up for grabs, and I don't know that that's a good thing right now. We are 75% of the way through the regular season schedule, and we have a position battle happening before our eyes. Now, Ryan Day is going to swing this as it's a good thing because we're developing depth, and that is true to a degree. It's not a complete and fabrication. But let's be honest, if Tegra Shabola was playing at an elite level, or at a level at least where he should be, given how much playing time he's gotten, we wouldn't be talking about Joshua Padilla needing to get back from an injury. But here we are, needing Josh Padilla to get back from an injury. And or is now Ethan O going to start to push Tegra at that right guard position? Ian Moore is your backup right tackle. So if Philip Daniels can't return from injury, then Ian Moore has an opportunity to wrap that thing up and maybe become your starting right tackle going into playoffs. Said Sack said Eric B. Moses said the same thing, but he believes Bay is the next Ted Ginn Jr. He's fast. He's actually, if I'm not mistaken, his 4.33 speed is like 0.02 quicker than what Ted Ginn's was. He's Ted Ginn fast. He's Braxton, but he plays quarterback. So think Braxton Miller. They're not bringing him in to start quarterback. They're bringing him in to be an option to put at quarterback if they need to mix things up to make the defenses scramble. But I think he's going to be a multiple position guy, which is really exciting because I think they can put him at different areas: wide receiver, H-back, quarterback. He's going to be a weapon. And the thing that excites me the most is he could be a weapon on special teams right now. He's that much of a weapon. So yeah, I'm glad B Moses and I are thinking on the same wavelength. I love B Moses, by the way. That's my boy. I've loved him for years. Marcus Thomas says Human Joystick 2.0. Great nickname. Oh, that's a good nickname. The Human Joystick. That is great. I love it. Good nickname. Andre says, Eric, is he also Chris Gamble fast? Oh, dude, this guy is lightning, man. He is grease lightning. He is fast. You go and you watch the film for people who are fast, and then you go watch his film, and it's like, oh, that's a different level. That's an Olympic track speed, okay? Not just track speed. In football, they talk about football, and they talk about track speed. He's got track speed, which means he's fast on the football field. But then there's Olympic speed. That's elite speed, okay? We're talking change how you play the game speed, okay? That's what this kid's got. He is awesome, and I love that nickname, the Human Joystick. That's fantastic. All right. The other thing I want to talk about that he brought up in this that I didn't talk about before was he says you can't have bad investments anymore. Thought that was an incredibly interesting ad that he threw in at the end of his answer when talking about recruiting in the transfer portal, how that they cannot miss on player evaluations. There used to be a percentage you could miss on, right? I think Urban Meyer talked on this. Like if you have a 75 to 80% hit rate on recruiting, you're going to be elite as a program. Ryan Day has, again, like all things, he's raised the bar. He even did it on grading out champions. Did you catch that? We no longer grade our offensive line at 80%, graded out as a champion. They have to be at 83%. We're no longer going to have a hit rate in recruiting at 70 to 80%. We got to be at 90%. Why? Because of the financial investment the university and the donors are making on these players in recruiting and in the transfer portal. You have to hit them. You can't miss. So they need to get good at throwing darts, right? When it comes to recruiting and who they're going after in the portal, it's about accuracy, right? They're not just shooting with a shotgun here. It's a sniper rifle, all right? They need to be pinpoint accurate on who they're going to go after and why, because the money behind that is major. You are seeing in college football that certain schools who had certain donors who were investing in the program, upon throwing money at certain players, aren't seeing the return on investment on the field with said players. And then there is a kickback from these guys to the program when they go after another check and they say, no, I'm not writing another $4 million, $4.5 million, $5 million check for you to go blow on another player, and when they're not even getting the playing time right now. You missed on that evaluation. Business owners are shrewd for a reason, okay? They want to see kickbacks on their investment. They want to see wins. Right now, there is a lot of rumors stirring around in Miami that they're not going to nearly have the NIL next year that they had this year because certain donors are PO'd about what took place in Miami this year. Certain guys who they've spent multi-million dollars on as recruits haven't even gotten on the field yet. And so these guys are just taking their money and doing what with it exactly? You'll always have some, especially at the larger universities, you'll have some people who are just so filthy rich, they don't care and they'll just throw their money at the program and walk away and not even care who they give it to. They don't even want to know. Oh, you need another $6 million check? Okay, yeah. It's like dropping dimes and dollars for them, right? But the people who invest, who are invested in the program, are the ones who are going to voice their opinion. And Ryan Day's answer about we can't have a bad investments anymore tells me that the conversations that have been taking place behind closed doors between Ross Bjork, Ryan Day, and the donors and investors who care about this program have been serious conversations about getting things right so that those investments are leading to more wins, Big Ten championship games, college football playoffs, playoff wins, and national championships. If we can do it right, we can do it better than everybody else. We can be more efficient at it because at the end of the day, we don't have Texas filthy rich oil money flowing into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We don't have that in Ohio. Texas Tech can throw as much money as they want to try to pull themselves out of the dungeon in the Big 12 into the marvelous slide of the CFP. And it's going to work for them. But that doesn't mean it's going to equal national championships. So you have to be incredibly smart about this, right? A lot of people look at college football and they view it as Major League Baseball, no salary cap, whatever. The Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Cubs, they're going to throw all this money, and the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Cincinnati Reds, they're never going to win anything because they're small market teams, right? You have the big markets and the small markets. College football is a little bit between that and the NFL, where everything is an equal playing field, and it's all about how you set up your franchise for the future and building on that franchise and making smart financial decisions like the New England Patriots did year in and year out. They would cut ties with people right before they reached that point where they had a diminishing return on their career and they lost all their value, right? And so they made smart financial decisions, and some other team would come in and offer all this guaranteed money to this player. They might get a half a season, maybe one season out of the 4 or 5 year deal, and then the rest of the time that player was often injured or didn't reach the normal stats that he had on a normal year while he was in New England. They always were one step ahead of everybody else when it came to the salary cap and who to give contracts to and who to go ahead and turn away from. Ohio State's playing that game right now with NIL. Now the only difference is there's not a set amount. So Texas Tech can throw $40 million. Texas can throw $40 million at a roster. Ohio State doesn't have that, so they have to be incredibly accurate on their investments. They have to hit. And that's what Ryan Day was admitting to us right there. Oh, man. Let's see here. Let's go to the chat. Mika, I love it, girl. We building a dynasty unlike any ever seen before. I hope so. Wouldn't that be something? Tyler says roster sizes since the walk-on program no longer exists, you have to hit on all your evaluations. Yes. So even if you have preferred walk-ons, is what they call them still, right? These are kids who typically could get low-level Division I scholarships, maybe even Division II scholarships, full ride kids, but they're going to Ohio State and they're paying their way on. because they want to be in the program, or they've got famous parents who are well off and can afford it, and so it doesn't really matter that they're not getting a full ride scholarship. So they still have preferred walk-ons, but they're basically high-level kids who Ryan Day, like he said, they need to be able to be very versatile. They got to be able to play more than one position so they can give us our scout team a good look, right? Andre says this is called building the dynasty in Columbus, Ohio. Bugsy's daddy says we missed in the portal this year. Yeah, we did. I don't know what the number was that Ethan O got. It was reportedly quite a bit, and he's brought zero value. That also, I think, irritates Ryan, and it probably irritates Ross Bjork because when they go back to investors, they don't want to answer that question. Why did I give you X amount of dollars and this guy's not even playing? Right? Oh, let's see. I think that's it, guys. Lisa says, no one does it better than us. SAC 3074, I love our recent flip recruiting. Jay Timmons is another great one. Yeah, good corner. We needed him. We only had one corner in this class. We needed him. Wouldn't be surprised if we get another one in this class as well. Well, that was our Ryan Day press conference, live press conference reaction video in real time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you haven't already, check out the video I posted this morning about who is next when it comes to the flips. Shout out to Buck Vader for providing this information for us. You can get this information and more like it over on our Patreon channel. Link is just below. Only costs $5 a month to be a part of Patreon. If you want this cool hat sent with you, sign up for the $20 a month, and then you'll be eligible for cool prizes every single month. But check it out. You'll love it over there on Patreon. So make sure that you sign up and you go hang out with us in the message boards, read the blogs, check out the extra videos. Tomorrow, I believe Mika will be producing the Illuminati episode number 3. She has some great topics thanks to the press conference today. So looking forward to recording that with her tomorrow. And also today at 6:30, if you want to watch the Buckeyes, you have to have Ohio State men's basketball team. You have to have Big Ten Plus. If you don't have Big Ten Plus and you don't want to sign up for it, no worries. We'll have the game for you over on Patreon. $5. It's all it costs to watch the game with us. By the way, that's less than what you would spend if you get Big Ten Plus. So you save yourself money just signing up to be a part of Patreon. And you get to watch the game with us this afternoon. 6:30 is when the game tips off over there. Gosh, Tyler, I knew someone was going to say this. I'm not even repeating that, T. Come on, man. That is the dumbest thing ever up there. It's almost bad as #bet. Anyways, come join us over at Patreon today at 6:30. Tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern right here on YouTube will be the Buckeye Lounge. Andy Groom, former Buckeye Andy Groom, will be joining the Wolverine Slayer herself, TG, and the Schrock Star. Great interview in the lounge tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy your afternoon. We'll either see you on Patreon or in the Buckeye Lounge this evening. Go Bucks.